Director
Yes.
Leggett? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Taylor? Not present for the vote. And Chairman Cody?
Director Stone, do we have enough for a quorum?
We have enough quorum. It's just, I think people are having trouble being heard, logging in.
And once we get Director Lockett's vote on the record,
Right.
Director Lockett?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Vice Chair Stone, motion passed for the approval of today's agenda.
Thank you very much. Okay, then let's move on to our presentations. The first one is our SMART presentation Stage 2 application proposal for the CAT EV zonal microtransit. And this presentation, and this is going to be a grant presentation. And Ms. Beverly, who will be making that? Will that be made by Ms. Stephanie?
Ms. Cutter will introduce, but Ms. Mary will lead the presentation slides.
Perfect then.
Thank you.
Director Stone, can I ask one quick question? Are we to hold
Absolutely.
off what? I was thinking because we're online, we can let the presentations go through and then ask questions at the end. Would that be permissible?
I think so. I think it would be better than to try to keep interrupting, just to hold your questions till the end.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. The first presentation is for the SMART Stage 2 grant, and this grant will afford Chatham Area Transit Authority the opportunity to introduce microtransit throughout the transit district. It is a 3-year grant that pays 100% for the operations of a microtransit program. The presentation by our Chief Planning Officer will take the board through the details of the grant application, including the budgetary components. With that, Ms. Masowicz.
Okay. Ms. Beverly, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. You know, it always runs smoother when you had it all laid out and then you try to find the button and it isn't there. Okay, you all should be able to see the presentation now?
We do not.
I do not.
All right, one more time.
No, ma'am.
No.
I don't see it.
Okay.
Mary, is it identical to what you sent us in the email?
Yes, it is in the agenda package. It says only the host and co-host can share screen.
Yes, one moment. We are switching that over. You should be able to share shortly.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Okay, see, technology is great when it works, right? So again, good afternoon and thank you for your patience. Just for the record, I'm Mary Moskowitz, Chief of Planning and Infrastructure Development. As Ms. Cutter stated, we are going to have a brief presentation on the microtransit Stage 2 SMART grant application. This presentation will cover our achievements in Stage 1, our goals for Stage 2, and how we aligned with the SMART grant goals. In March of 2023, the U.S. Department of Transportation awarded $94 million worth of grants to 59 projects in 33 states across the United States for the FY22 SMART grant applications. This program is part of the bipartisan infrastructure law focusing on leveraging technology to improve transportation systems. CAT was awarded one of the grants and received over $1.2 million for the Zonal EV microtransit project. Only projects that received Stage 1 funding are eligible to apply for stage 2. There is approximately $50 million available for stage 2 grants, with an anticipated minimum award of $2 million, with an expected range of 3 to 5 grants granted, up to $15 million each. For stage 1, we worked with our partners at Georgia Tech to develop applications that integrated our fixed route and paratransit service with the on-demand microtransit. This involved developing 3 applications: the driver app, the monitor app, and the rider app. We purchased 5 electric microtransit vehicles, some of which were funded through the Georgia Transit Trust Fund, others funded through the grant. We engaged with stakeholders, including the community and workforce, and we did launch the pilot service in East Savannah. The project goals are to enhance connectivity and improve that first and last mile connectivity, to provide environmental sustainability by reducing carbon emissions, by using no emission vehicles. But the lessons learned from stage 1 showed the need for a more resilient transit fleet and not to rely on just one energy source. So the application for stage 2 allows for flexibility in purchasing fleet vehicles. So this does include allow us to purchase low emission vehicles, such as a hybrid vehicle. We are also aiming to enhance equity by targeting historically disadvantaged areas. A historically disadvantaged area is defined by the Justice 40 interim guidance as any census tract identified as a disadvantaged community that has been marginalized by underinvestment and overburdened by pollution. The plans for stage 2 include an extension plan. We hope to scale to be able to operate in multiple zones, including East Savannah, West Chatham, and this includes the industrial areas north of the airport on Jimmy DeLoach, and the areas and neighborhoods surrounding Benton Boulevard and Highland Boulevard. The Silk Hope areas include US 17 to I-95, and then also expand to a 4th additional zone. We hope to develop the mobile application to allow some more real-time data exchange and trip planning, and then enhance that on-demand multimodal system for seamless integration across our fleet. We want to continue that ongoing community impact efforts that we did in stage 1 by continuing that feedback from stakeholders and residents, and really focus on the transportation equity and accessibility with a focus on that transit-dependent community. The benefits of this program, we hope to increase ridership and reduce travel times. The preliminary results from stage 1 have shown that the average trip is 18.2 minutes from the start, so the call of the trip, to when you get to your final destination. We did see some increase in ridership on the fixed routes in the zones that the microtransit was working in. We also hope to improve mobility, again, enhancing that first and last mile connectivity, especially in those underserved areas. And again, going back to that environmental impact, by using the low and no emission vehicles, we hope to reduce the overall carbon impact. And finally, we hope to enhance user feedback and positive satisfaction from our users. For example, one of the comments that we heard for the stage 1 pilot, especially from our female riders, is that they actually prefer the CAT system over Uber and Lyft because they know what vehicle is coming, what it's going to look like, and who their driver is. So the goals of the SMART grant program themselves, there are 4 main goals. They include safety, mobility, accessibility, and sustainability. And we hope to improve the public safety through those advanced technologies, and then also focusing on the cybersecurity aspect and identifying ways to enhance that within the application. The mobility, again, connecting those communities and increasing efficiency in the overall transit system. accessibility, particularly focusing on the low income and minority populations, and then going back to that sustainability with using the EV or hybrid fleet. One of the things that is different about stage 2 than stage 1 is the emphasis on workforce development. We've already made great strides in that effort in our stage 1 planning, and we hope to continue that. Again, enhancing that community engagement with the involvement of residents and stakeholders, and really focusing on equity as one of the models. For the workforce development, we want to continue those partnerships like with Savannah Technical College for the EV maintenance training, and then work with our partners again on the apprenticeship programs through Savannah Tech. Our internship program, we want to continue that with Savannah State University, and then be able to offer mentorship programs to diversify the workforce. One of the factors for evaluating stage 2 is project readiness. So how ready we are to move forward from stage 1. As Ms. Cutter mentioned, stage 1 was an 18-month pilot project. Stage 2 is a 36-month-long implementation project. So through the lessons learned in stage 1, we learned the importance of that phased development strategy and the robust community engagement. We also are addressing all of our legal, regulatory, and cybersecurity requirements of the grant. We know that we're ready because the leadership team consists of experienced project managers and technical experts, and we plan on continuing our strong partnerships with institutions like Georgia Tech and Savannah State University. So this is details about the budget itself. So the way the grant is set up, there are different categories for the budget. The first category is the personnel, and that is directly the wages associated with that personnel. So for our budget, we included 22 operators, 1 dispatcher monitor, 1 technician. So this would be a maintenance worker dedicated solely to the microtransit fleet, and then 1 supervisor. The Friends benefits, we have to list those out, and those are the costs related to the health insurance and requirement for those personnel that we identified. The travel, per the grant, we need to include travel for 4 people to attend the annual SMART conference. So a 36-month-long grant, we have 3 conferences to attend. The equipment for this program includes the 5, and they can either be the low or no emission microtransit vehicles and all that related equipment, the radios, cameras, iPads, etc. The grant does not include the new capital for the charging infrastructure for the fleet. Those costs can be covered under or are covered under other grants that we have, for example, the 5339 grant. We also had to list out our supplies. So we included the cost for the uniforms for the operators, and then the any other supplies under $5,000. This also includes that electric charging because some of our fleet, as we go out to other zones, they may be going to areas that the charging infrastructure is. Right now, they're charging here at Central. The electric charging costs can be covered at an outside charging vendor if needed. We did break out the contractor services. So that is the services that we're receiving through Georgia Tech and through PIN, which is the Institute for Innovation, for that external advisory board. They have a category for other, and so that in our particular budget includes the training opportunities, also with the apprenticeships and internships and mentorship cost. And then finally, they ask us to break out those indirect costs. So the indirect costs are those that are not directly associated with the grant, but are required for grant operations. So those are things like the administration and insurance costs for like the buildings and vehicles and things like that. So this slide is a summary slide of the budget for each line item. The detailed budget is included in your package, and I believe it is on page 29 of that PDF application. So you can see where those detailed costs come out of. But overall, the total application budget is at $10,679,648. And just a reminder that the project is broken up over a 36-month period, and so the annual costs are provided as well. So the next step for us, we want to finalize the application. The applications are due on August 14th. The award we will be notified of the award in late 2024. The stage 1 project that we're currently in, that wraps up in January of 2025. And if we are awarded the grant, we are required to do the implementation within 60 days of the award. So that concludes my presentation, and I will stop sharing and available to answer any questions.
Yes, I believe Dr. Robinson had a question, and then I think Director Odell wanted to know where Silk Hope was.
Okay, Silk Hope is at 1792 a quarter, so referred to as Silk Hope, between 1792 Ogeechee Road and I-95.
Okay. All right, Dr. Robinson, I know you had some questions.
I do. One of the things is, I think when it was first introduced by Ms. Cutter, we said that this was 100% covered in the grant. Is that correct?
The grant,
Financing, yes.
so the grant has no matching requirement, and so all of these costs would be 100% covered within the grant. There would be no matching provided by CAF.
Okay, so, but then the infrastructure would be an additional cost, which you said was covered by other grants.
So the infrastructure is a charging infrastructure. So that's the
Right.
infrastructure for all of our charging. So we have charging infrastructure for our buses, for our other electric vehicles. So those costs are covered under other grants.
And is the $10 million spread over 3 years, or?
Yes,
is it-
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So once we get this grant, we don't have to apply every year for 3 years.
Correct. It would be a 36-month period. Yes.
And within the $10 million, I guess there's some allowance for costs, rising costs. What is the cost now? Maybe not what it's going to cost us 3 years from now. So we've got a cushion within this 10 million that would help us in case of inflation or whatever, right?
Yes, we added an inflation rate. So each year there's an inflation rate added to those costs. Yes.
And also any kind of contract work or contract needs is covered in the 10 million.
So yes, so the contracted amount is
2 million.
it's a 2 million, yes, and so that again also included inflation. So it's a yearly amount, and they inflated their yearly contribution as well.
So other than what we had in stage 1, we anticipate needing more contracts help than we did in phase 1, or we a little further along ourselves because of phase 1.
Yes, thank you. Excellent question. So it maintains the same level of contractual work. So each year we have the same, it's like a software maintenance package. So to keep up with the technology that they're providing.
So doing these training that we do with our employees are not being trained to take over some of these jobs that we're contracting for, because let's say this takes off and it becomes part of what we do every day. Will we always use contract labor?
So the contract specific for the software development, we are not developing software developers.
So once you get the software in place, it has to be maintained.
So yes, and that is the typical. So and you'll see that with all of our as we move into technology budget, it's called SaaS, as software as a solution. So just like any project product that you have, you would have ongoing maintenance costs associated with that.
Yeah, I got one last question. When we say scale to multiple zones and we say East Savannah, like the question about Silk Hope, what does that, because East Savannah in itself is a community by name.
Mhm.
So,
Yes, ma'am. So the East Savannah zone covers the areas north of Victory and then President Street and then to Habersham on the west side. And then, I'm sorry, Truman on the east side, Habersham on the west, and then President on the north side.
yes, I was just thinking when we do this again, maybe you want to specify specifically because East Savannah by name is a community. I mean, when you say East Savannah, there's a specific community by that name. So I was just thinking that perhaps we might want to be kind of clear on what areas we're covering, for our purposes as well as board members as well.
Yes, I do have a map, and I'm just trying to see if I can share that with you all as well. So because I have the presentation still up, I can't, if you guys give me.
I think, well, I'm good. That was probably all of my question, Director Stone.
Okay, I have some. I got my hand up. I don't know if y'all can see it.
Okay, Director Odell?
So when you say disadvantaged areas, the majority of those are within the city limits, correct?
So there are Justice 40 areas. There are, yes, and I apologize, I don't know the boundaries of the city limits, but many of them are located within the city of Savannah. I believe Garden City also is identified as one.
But my point is the majority of them are on a fixed route, right?
No, we don't have, so that is one of the things our studies have shown is that 64% of our disadvantaged communities are not within a half a mile of an existing fixed route.
But they're within the city limits and they're not within a half mile of a bus?
Correct.
Okay, so when we first started talking about microtransit, we talked about the unincorporated area and funneling them to a fixed route.
Mhm.
What of this grant covers the unincorporated area?
So let me show you, I've got the map up, so I'm gonna share my screen again and I will show that map.
Because the first part of the grant totally ignored our instructions.
So this is the map of the zonal areas now. So this purpley area, can you guys all see my screen?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, so this purple area here, this is the East Savannah boundary. So this is the zone that we first operated in from April to June. This here, this fuchsia, I guess we'll call it area. This is the West Chatham area. And this would be the second area that we launch in. This yellow area is the Silk Hope area known as the Silk Hope area. And then this kind of pink area here is another zone. This was not in stage 1, but this is identified as an option for stage 2, the Whitmarsh zone.
Okay. So there are a good portion of those outside of the city limits.
Yes, yes. So this now some of them, we respect the CAT boundary, so we only operate where CAT's existing services service boundary is.
But when you include the Whitmarsh area, and you said it's for disadvantage, what part of that would be considered disadvantage?
So this is one area that was identified as a possible expansion. When we move into stage 2, there are other areas that we are evaluating to do that expansion area in. But per the master transit plan, this area was the area that was identified.
But again, my question is, what part of that fits the criteria for disadvantage and equity?
So I
But-
bel-
But this doesn't seem, I'm trying to figure out if this addresses the unincorporated area. Does this address the fact that unincorporated is paying for bus service and not receiving it? And
Well,
it
but-
doesn't look like it does that unless I'm looking at it wrong, which I could be. So,
Well, if-
Like there's a lot out in West Chatham that's not in the city limit. I don't think Silk Hope is within the city limits, and Whitmarsh is definitely not in the city.
I
limits.
know Whitmarsh isn't, and we've talked about the fact that you have to pass so many neighborhoods to get to an actual bus stop on Whitmarsh Island. So I'm happy that they're addressing the bus stop desert that is Whitmarsh Island.
Right.
But microtransit was supposed to deal with the issue of the unincorporated area and feeding the unincorporated area into fixed route. When the first grant was written, that was ignored. And it was specifically said, because we talked about it with the first mile, last mile. And so I'm trying to figure out how much of this deals with the unincorporated area.
Well, I definitely, that part of West Chatham, Tabitha, is unincorporated. I'm 90% sure that Silk Hope is unincorporated. And
Not all of Silk Hope, because Silk Hope is
I
along that.
say all of it, but there's a good portion of it that, if looking at this map, that's not within the city limits.
so what
So-
we can, I'm sorry, I apologize for interrupting, but
That's
we
fine.
can provide a map that overlays this map with the city limit boundaries and provide that calculation, and we can do that.
Where is I-95 on this map?
This is I-95 here. You see?
And Mary,
So-
those look,
So
sorry.
this will not include that apartment complex that we've been talking about, which is just beyond 95. Is that right?
So the zones because, and that's the great thing about microtransit is that we can move boundaries easily. So if there's either an identified zone or identified point, it is very easy for us to incorporate those into the to the zone, and we can do it quickly. Once we get that information, we can upload it in and put that start providing service to that the next day. So this is a conceptual outline that was in the transit master plan, but the actual map zonal area is very easy to change.
It's just that this doesn't look like anything that we talked about. And we talked about the fact that on Little Neck Road, there's several areas that are now incorporated into the city of Savannah, which we're supposed to provide bus service to. And so part of it.
Let me make a suggestion. Why don't we let her distribute the maps, and then we can discuss the areas that we would like to see adjusted, if you will, with these parameters.
Yeah, but we have a timeline of August 14th for staff to get this to where it needs to be. So are we suggesting that we go ahead today and do what we need to do and then come back and make corrections
Yes,
later?
That would be my suggestion.
Are
Mary,
we
is that
tied? Are we tied into the map once the grant is provided?
She's saying,
Yeah,
So-
do you mind, Director Stone? No, ma'am. So the grant ties us to, we're going to operate in 4 zones. But we can modify what the boundaries of that zone are anytime that we want. We are just applying to get enough operators so that we can cover 4 zonal areas.
so that would be my, to go ahead and approve it. And then we can look at these zones and see, what we intend for it to cover.
Yeah, because yeah, that's what I want to be clear on, Ms. Cutter, is I know this has a deadline. I get that part. But if we as a board approve this, then we as a board will again get to look at it. Planning will come back with whatever corrections or suggestions we're making during this whole process of stage 2. Am I correct? Or is it once we say it, that's what it is?
No, Dr. Robinson, as Ms. Motzovitz stated earlier, the boundaries of the zones can easily be moved to incorporate other areas that the board desires within the microtransit system.
Okay, thank you.
All right, are there any other questions? And if not, if we could be provided with those maps, that would be great, so we can be thinking about it and not just have it at a meeting when we haven't seen it. So I would love for that to be distributed, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, then let's move on to our ferry maintenance facility, our stormwater facility inspection and maintenance. Mary, I guess you're going to read through the stormwater agreement for us?
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me, Director Stone, I'd like to give a brief introduction to
Certainly.
this presentation. This goes back to a task order that was issued in February of 2019. The task order was awarded to Thomas and Hutton for the general consulting phase through the permit phase for the Western Dock and the ferry maintenance facility. As a part of the city's permitting process, a stormwater agreement is required. This agreement, of course, is needed in order for the city to complete its review process and issue authority to move forward with the design and construction of the facility.
So thank you, Ms. Cutter, for that great introduction. I think you really explained a lot of what the project is and what the request is. So I would just move on and get to the presentation here. As stated, this is for the ferry maintenance facility. We did receive a grant, the passenger ferry grant, to construct this facility.
One moment. Miss Mary,
Yes.
you may have to go into presentation slide mode.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
What? You guys see it now?
I see it.
Okay, so the facility, we were awarded the grant. The property is currently owned by CAT. As Ms. Cutter stated, our consultants, Thomas and Hutton, have completed their engineering plans and we're in the permitting stage. As part of that permitting stage, the city of Savannah requires us to enter into that stormwater facility inspection and maintenance agreement. So just to orient you all, the site is located on Hutchinson Island. This is the convention center parking lot here. This is that multimodal facility. The blue star is the approximate location of the maintenance facility, and the red outline is the parcel known as Parcel 7 that is owned by CAT. So stormwater, what is a stormwater facility? It is the facility that collects and treats that stormwater from the impervious surfaces like roads and driveways. We're very thankful that we have operating stormwater systems in events like we had during Tropical Storm Debby. So this agreement is to ensure that we, as the owners of that stormwater facility, construct it properly. We have all the maintenance and inspections required, and then address any repairs that are needed. The agreement is with the landowner, so it would be with CAT, but then is also would go to any of our successors or assigned. So if we sell the property, that new property owner would then be responsible for the facility. So this is a site plan that shows what the facility will look like. The gray box here, that is the building itself. So that's an impervious area. We've got a driveway and parking lot. And you can tell an engineer designed this. These ponds here are the stormwater facilities. So that's where the runoff would go and be collected and stored and treated during rain events. So again, the agreement makes sure that we construct the stormwater facility properly, and then allows for that annual inspection. If we do need to make any maintenance work, we are obligated to do that and follow any city directives. If something is to fail, we are responsible for the reimbursements of costs and indemnifying the city against any damage. So just to kind of reiterate who's in charge of what for this agreement. So the actual construction, that is under my department, and we're reviewing those construction documents through the engineer, and then would move, once the facility is completed, it moves over to risk management to manage the compliance and annual reports. They work with us to in asset management when maintenance or additional work is needed. So we do an annual maintenance, annual inspection of all of our stormwater facilities. And so what the request we have today is we are asking the board to authorize the interim CEO to sign the stormwater facility and inspection, stormwater facility inspection and maintenance agreement. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I have a quick, and then people can go ahead of me, but do we need a motion for this? Because this just says a presentation.
I believe that is the next
action
item
item.
on your agenda.
Okay,
Yeah, and during your action. Yeah.
okay, there are some action items that do require, but I just didn't know what said presentation here, so I just want to make certain.
Yes.
Okay, I apologize. Any other questions for Miss Mary?
Miss Mary, or
Yes,
Ms. Cutter, help me understand exactly what we are approving today. Are we approving to go ahead and get the permit? Because the word permit comes up, and I'm not sure why we talked about what happened in 2019, because that was just an authorization for the architect to do what he did. And based on your report, that part is finished. He's done the design. And now we're asking, and we've got the land, right? And based on the definition of stormwater, you're asking us today to allow the ICEO to sign the agreement to get the permit to move forward?
Ms. Cutter, you're muted.
Without the storm water agreement, the city will not issue the permit. It's a requirement of the permit process.
So the $10,000 that we saw, the financial impact is $10,000 approximately. What does that cover?
That covers really the inspection and any minor repairs that may come along as a result of the inspection.
But the inspection happens after the building is constructed, right?
That's correct.
So that's why I'm a little bit confused. I know we need to sign this, but I don't know what we're signing, because the $10,000 doesn't apply to this particular, the financial impact won't happen for the next, what, 3 or 4 years?
Well, the financial impact is the current projected cost. And I believe a portion of the statement is that that amount does not reflect inflationary costs. It is just the current projection of what it costs in today's dollars in consideration of inflationary impacts at a later date, and wanted to make sure the board realized that this building won't be completed for a couple of years, and that $10,000 may be a little low and may not cover the entire cost. We would have to, of course, consider the inflationary impact.
So what we're signing today does not have any financial impact.
The impact won't be today, but
Right.
it's a projected cost, and the thought was that the board would need to know what that potential cost could be, and that's really the reason for bringing this before the board, so that it's a part of the official minutes of Chatham Area Transit Authority, and the task order has already been approved. That includes the permitting process, and that's why that was mentioned earlier. This is just a small piece of the permitting process.
Right.
And just an aside, do we know when the project is when the actual building will start going up? Because we have to do an RFP or whatever to get people to bid on the construction of the facility, right?
Yes, Dr. Robinson, and you'll be seeing that. Is that scheduled for this month, Mary, or next month?
No, it would probably be next month or even September, October.
Yes, I think they're waiting on some additional information from the engineer prior to bringing it to the board for approval.
Yes.
But this will get us moving to the next step.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's it for me, Director Stone.
All right. Any other questions before we move into our items that will require board action? Are there any other questions? Okay, then let's move into the request for the board for authorization to do these to submit the grant application for the SMART grant stage 2 to be issued by the office or the assistant secretary for research and technology of the United States Department of Transportation. So we just need a motion, is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Is there a motion, or
I
would anyone
so
like?
move.
All right, is there a second? I'll make a second if no one will make a second.
Okay, thank you. And Vice
All right.
Chair Stone, any discussion? Or
Any discussion, any questions, any comments?
I'll do a roll
Okay,
call
then-
vote.
Do a roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Director Odell?
Yes.
Thank you. Director Stone?
Yes.
Thank you. Director Lockett?
Yes.
Thank you. Director Adams? Director Adams has joined the meeting. Director Adams, I'll come back to you. Director Robinson?
Yes.
Thank you. Director Leggett?
Yes.
Thank you. Director Taylor? Not present for the vote. Chairman Cody?
Yes.
Thank you. And Director Adams?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Stone, motion passed to approve the grant application for stage 2.
Okay, the second request that requires board action is the request for the board to authorize the interim executive director to execute a statement excuse me, a stormwater facility inspection and maintenance agreement between the authority and the city of Savannah. So is there a motion for that coming from a board member, please? All right, I'll make the motion. Is there a second?
I'll
I'll
second.
A second.
All right, roll call vote, please, Ms. Beverly. Did she disappear?
My
Uh-oh.
apologies, Vice Chair. Okay, I'm back on. Director Odell,
Yes.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Lockett,
Yes.
Director Adams,
Yes.
Director Robinson,
Yes.
Director Leggett,
Yes.
Director Taylor, not present, and Chairman Cody.
Yes.
Okay, Vice Chair Stone, motion passed to approve item 3.2.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and is there any old business that we need to be aware of from our CEO, interim CEO?
Nothing at this point, Director
Okay.
Stone.
Thank you. And then I will make a motion after I state that our next regular board meeting will be August the 27th, 2024. But I do have a question. Is there going to be another meeting to finish the second part of what we didn't do today, an in-person meeting, or did I miss something along the way?
Yes, ma'am. We have not set the date, well, the time. We proposed Monday or Tuesday for next week, and that will be an in-person meeting.
Okay. All righty then.
Yes, ma'am. So
Um,
that is still a pending item that the board will need to consider soon.
All right. Well, then you'll just notify us.
Yes, ma'am. Certainly will.
All right.
Okay.
Is there,
Is-
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Are there any hard dates or hard times that would not work for the board? I think we were looking at the same start time.
I think if you send us another email and let us know what's pending and what we need to do as a board.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Certainly
That
will.
That would be helpful.
Okay.
All right. Is there any other business to come before the board? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Also move.
Thank
Second.
you. Second. All right.
Okay.
All Beverly, you
All
can
in
do.
favor? Okay. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
I
Yes.
thank you all very much for attending today, and I appreciate everybody's participation.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank
Thank you,
you.
Director. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Vice Chair. Okay.